और जरा लक्षण देखिए।
If you ask me about what are the most important aspects of a film that empower it to become emotionally impactful and make you feel something at all about what is happening on the screen, I will say editing and sound. And when we talk about sound, it comprises of background music and sound design.
Your time starts now.
Cinema is an audio-visual medium of storytelling, and when we say audio-visual, it means that both the elements complement each other to create a world of imagination that captures the attention of our senses. And I believe that depending on the nature of your story, the soundscape becomes equally and sometimes more important than the visual landscape. And in the case of 12th Fail, it is the engaging soundscape and the editing of the plot that truly defines the emotional landscape of the film. In this video essay, let's try to examine the progression of the narrative to see how the auditory atmosphere elevates the core emotions of this film. I'm not going to talk about the story. We are not going to talk about what happens in the beginning, middle, and end. What we are going to discuss is the different scenes of this film, which is basically picking up different moments from the plot of this film in order to explain the importance of editing and sound. Now, the use of long takes with a handheld camera is something that is very evident right from the opening scenes of this film. A handheld camera is meant to add realism to the portrayal of the story. It tries to mimic the vision of a human eye to make the audience feel that they are actually standing there and moving along with the characters. They have a more tangible presence in the story. A handheld camera also depicts instability, the state of imbalance that is currently experienced by the characters. And when it is used as a steady cam, the meaning completely changes. To learn more, you can watch my video essays on the use of handheld camera in The Family Man and A Wednesday. The links for both of them are in the description. But coming to the editing and soundscape of 12th Fail, the film introduces us to the rural setting of Chambal, not with the background music, but with the sound design that makes us instantly recognize and absorb the atmosphere of that place.
और जे जो छत पे बैठा है ना, जे है मनोज। अब बहुत जल्दी डिसाइड करने वाला है कि मैं हिंदुस्तान का सबसे मुश्किल एग्जाम पास करके आईपीएस बनूंगा।
It's like if you close your eyes and just listen to the sound with the voiceover, you will know exactly the kind of world you are in. And what's interesting is that for the first 7 minutes of the film, you do not hear any background score. Every scene relies entirely on sound design. This feels like a conscious choice to allow the audience to fully grasp the world of our characters and how they spend their lives every day. The very first instance in the film when the background music is used is when the DSP enters the picture, literally and metaphorically. We hear a soft use of the Indian classical instruments, which is also befitting how the insects of moral corruption are feeding on the sanctity of the education system.
x माइनस x की घात 3 और
And of course, the long takes using the handheld cameras also support the depiction of this sad reality. As the plot progresses, we notice an increasing usage of the background music composed with the help of Indian classical instruments. The background music comprises of different musical themes that define emotion, situation, character traits, and ideas. In this scene, when the father of our protagonist leaves his home, we are introduced to this theme associated with the family values of our protagonist, which are honesty and the spirit to fight against injustice.
वो जान दे पुष्पा, लड़ने दे।
भूखे पेट लड़ोगे का?
Later, when our protagonist Manoj rushes to the DSP's house to save his brother's life, we hear this musical theme to exemplify the state of urgency and danger experienced by the characters. Then after the DSP agrees to visit the police station, we once again listen to the same musical theme that was used previously when he arrived at the school.
x की घात 3 और माइनस 3
क्या चल रहा है यहाँ?
x
जैन साहब,
जैन साहब,
क्या किया इसने? बता साहब को।
The meaning remains the same, which means fighting corruption and killing those insects of immorality. And since the musical theme gets repeated in two different scenes of the same character, we can say that it has become the leitmotif for the character of the DSP. As the events continue, Manoj decides to ditch the path of cheating, and not just in exams but in life. He's ready to enter the real competitive world to fulfill his dreams of becoming just like the DSP officer. And as he bids farewell to his loved ones, his grandmother offers him a much needed surprise. The moment she opens the box, we once again listen to the same musical theme that we just heard a few scenes ago.
दो पैसा बड़ी मुश्किल से बचाए हुए।
This becomes the leitmotif for Manoj, his bond with his grandmother, and the values imbibed by his father. It continues to play from this moment.
अब बड़ा पुलिस अफसर बनकर ही लौटी हूँ। तुझे वर्दी में देख के तेरे दादाजी बहुत खुश होंगे।
Till this one, when he is boarding the bus.
जगह है रास्ते में खाना खा लिया
हाँ ख्याल रखना अपना।
And as he sits down, the musical theme starts fading away. This makes you understand how our protagonist has left a familiar world of love and support and values. He is now taking a ride to a world unknown and undiscovered. It is now when Manoj is going to face tons of obstacles before conquering the world and emerge victoriously in the end. This transfer from the familiar to the unfamiliar is depicted by using a dip to black transition. But more importantly, the background score also starts fading out. And now, please observe this carefully, or actually, you know what? Listen to this carefully. The sound of the buses honking introduces the world of unfamiliarity for Manoj. With unfamiliarity comes unexpected obstacles. Manoj loses both the physical and emotional luggage that would have carried him through his journey. Now, generally, for such situations, we would expect the introduction of an elevated, high pitched background score to address the sadness and the confusion and the defeat of our character. But instead of that, the makers choose to do something that is more impactful. We notice the use of montage or a series of shots to depict the emotional turmoil experienced by Manoj. This montage is divided into different segments, and I request you to please use your headphones or earphones in order to understand better what I'm telling you now. The first segment is when Manoj is informed about how his luggage is stolen after reaching the city.
यार वो जो भाभी जी तेरे साथ बैठी थी वो लेके उतर गई ले गई।
मेरा बैग था वो कैसे लेके चली गई?
We notice an aggressive use of the bus engine sound that slightly lowers the dialogue audio of Manoj. Then the handheld camera follows Manoj as he gets off the bus and starts looking for the lady in the state of shock. Now, the noise of the environment has overpowered this moment. It's a long take, and the camera continues to follow Manoj as he goes back to the conductor who tells him that
अरे आधा घंटा पहले बरुआ में उतर गई वो तो।
the background sound of the bus stand starts fading, and we hear the addition of brown noise along with the heightened sound of Manoj's anxious breaths.
अरे आधा घंटा पहले बरुआ में उतर गई वो तो।
There is an audio match cut that is switching from one scene to another by using the same sound. And in this case, the sound is of the firecrackers. The camera continues to capture our protagonist's emotional state. Then there is a dissolved transition for the match cut to show this scene of Manoj sitting alone in front of a coaching center. And do notice the name of the coaching center as well. As the camera dollies towards Manoj, the sound of the firecracker fades out, and we now have cross cuts between this moment and the bus stand along with the audio of his grandmother's voice.
बड़ी मुश्किल से बचाए हुए। तेरी माँ से जब पैसा।
अरे आधा घंटा पहले बरुआ में उतर गई वो तो।
Did you notice how the audio gets muted mostly by the sound of an object? Let's take a note of this editing choice for a future reference as well. Now, when Manoj learns about the reality of the PCS exams, he goes back to the same bus stand. Once again, we have an audio match cut with the sound of the bus along with the musical theme and the sound of the ticking clock. The ticking clock depicts how time is running out for Manoj and he's getting more anxious about what to do next. The ticking clock sound is also used as an audio match cut for the next scene when Manoj finally meets an ally whose face belongs to the voice that has been narrating the story so far. Also, you will notice that there is, sunlight falling on the face of this character who is going to be the ally for Manoj in the story for quite a long period of time.
ऐसा चमत्कार भी भैया मैंने जिंदगी में पहली बार देखा था।
The journey of Manoj pivots because of this encounter and takes him to the capital city. And now we witness the use of some amazing creative choices for editing and sound that heighten the stakes for our protagonist way more than what he has been through so far. To depict the vast difference of unfamiliarity and magnified levels of competitiveness in the city of Delhi, we witness the use of this montage. This montage comprises of sounds that introduce the bustling atmosphere of Mukherjee Nagar and also a dynamic musical theme that is coherent to the dynamic lives of this place. This gives us a clear idea of how the journey of Manoj is now going to get tougher and more challenging than ever. We keep following the journey of Manoj and witness his relentless pursuit of fulfilling his dreams. Just like Preetham Pandey, he finds another ally who actually becomes his mentor, Gauri Bhaiya. He keeps pushing him to restart after every failure. As Preetham's character starts descending from an ally to a fraud character, Gauri Bhaiya proves his allegiance not just to Manoj but to everyone like Manoj, especially in this scene.
चले आते हैं भेड़ बकरियों की तरह बसों और ट्रेनों में भर भर कुछ नहीं होता इनके पास
But notice how the audience is made to focus on what Gauri Bhaiya says. Once again, the sound of an object is used to mute the background sound. Previously, it was meant to elevate the emotional trauma and guilt of Manoj. And here it is done to elevate the spirit of becoming unstoppable while chasing your dreams without bothering about where you come from. Also, we notice the use of intercuts to complement Gauri Bhaiya's monologue with the current situation of Manoj.
चाहे इनको किसी लाइब्रेरी में झाड़ू लगाना पड़े या किसी का टॉयलेट साफ करना पड़े ये पीछे नहीं हटते
And of course, we once again hear the leitmotif to remind us about where Manoj has come from. We then have the introduction of Shraddha's character who becomes Manoj's love interest, and the introduction of this character also introduces a new leitmotif that becomes the theme of love for Manoj and Shraddha. Now, this is something that was mentioned beautifully by Humans of Cinema in their post, that Shraddha's theme has been composed using modern instruments, whereas the theme for Manoj has been composed by using Indian classical instruments. And in this particular moment, when Shraddha finally confesses her love and says, I love you, Manoj, we notice an amalgamation, a musical amalgamation of both the musical themes, of both the leitmotifs coming together and, beautifying this small moment between Shraddha and Manoj when they are finally able to celebrate their love without any restraints. Now, before ending this video, I want to talk about another great use of sound to introduce an object as a motif of great importance in the life of Manoj. So, from the beginning of this film, we start rooting for the character of Manoj, whose stakes keep increasing with every scene. We are made to feel sympathetic for this character by depicting his unbreakable resolutions to win in life despite all odds. We feel the happiness of every achievement he makes. We feel every moment of struggle that he goes through, and we feel for the hero of this story. Now, one can say that the entire functioning of this world is the villain in this story of 12th Fail. The undeniable reality of the rat race is the biggest force of antagonism for Manoj. But I feel that for Manoj, the biggest villain has never been the system. The biggest villain has never been the judgment that he received from others. It is not his inability to speak English. It is not the lack of resources and comfort. The biggest villain in this story of Manoj is time. Time is what Manoj has to fight against for the entirety of this journey. Time becomes a villain not as a resource but as a scarcity. And the same gets established in parts when in and the same gets established from the beginning in the end, right from this scene when he's left stranded at the bus station. Time is running out for Manoj, and he is reminded of the same with the loss of his most personal belongings. Time is running out for Manoj to finally start studying for the exams. Time is running out for Manoj to return back to his grandmother after becoming an IPS officer and fulfilling his promise. Time is running out for Manoj to write 200 words not just about him but on any given topic in the exam. Time is the biggest enemy for Manoj until this moment when he can finally take control of every second. In these two scenes, the sound of the ticking clock has been used to indicate of how time will become eventually the biggest strength of Manoj in this scene when Shraddha hands him a stopwatch, an object that gives you the power to control time. And this is how I believe 12th Fail leaves an amazing emotional effectiveness in the hearts of the audience. And I'm so happy that a film like 12th Fail exists in Indian cinema. And I hope that this video was able to share, was able to explain the importance of editing and sound design that has been used in 12th Fail, which actually does most of the heavy lifting. Of course, there is array of great performances from the actors, but I also feel that the editing and sound of this film needs to be appreciated more, which is why I thought of making this video. And if you agree with any of my thoughts, let me know in the comments. If you like the efforts put behind this video, make sure to give it a like. You can subscribe the channel by hitting the red subscribe button and pressing the bell icon. Also, if you want to know more about sound design, I explored the use of leitmotif in Kantara, which is why I feel Kantara is a cinematic achievement because of how brilliantly the sound design of that film was crafted. You can watch the video in the description. The link for the video is in the description. And I will see you soon in the next one. Till then, my name is Porush. Thank you so much for watching. Long live cinema.